I'm a new student. Not new. You were here last week.
Yeah. Not anymore.
What's your name? Batya. Your last name? Okay, Batya. Okay, today is 3. Thank you, dear.
Yes. They actually, it's funny that the same first name as mine now. They don't say first name, but it's soft, it's like sound consonant one. And it lives in me as well. So you always get like then male and like purple. Really? Yeah.
Batya. Chaya Atkins.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. Hannah Gary. Gianna.
Good morning.
Michelson. Batya. Yes, you are.
Hashem.
Hashem.
What would we do without Batya?
So, good morning, Mrs. Shapiro.
Good morning.
Also Basya. And Rohohana Tahir.
Good morning.
And Shoshana.
Yes.
Yes. Shoshana Chassid.
Whatever.
Okay. So we were Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nהיה b'dvaro.
You don't have to have a
So we were discussing yesterday the difference between a person who's born a tzaddik and a person who becomes a tzaddik. The conclusion was that according to the words of Eov, who was a tzaddik, was he Jewish, was he not Jewish? I think he was not Jewish. There's a whole debate in the Talmud if he was just an allegory or if he was a real person. Is his story just a lesson for us? But according to his words, a person can be born a tzaddik, which means not that he's born righteous, but he's born with the potential to be a complete tzaddik. Not everybody has that potential. Some people are born to be Hasidim. Some people are born to be Beinonim. Some people are born to be just regular people struggling the whole time. And Hashem never expects them to be tzaddikim. But he does expect them to try hard. So if a person is trying hard, he's on the way, he's not yet a tzaddik, because you can be on the very last square on the checkerboard. And you're not at the end yet. To get to the last square is like a quantum jump. It's not just a progression. It's like being, you see these videos, the documentaries about people who climb Mount Everest. And the higher they go, the harder it is. There are terrible storms, wind and snow and freezing cold and no air to breathe. And every ounce of strength just to remain where you are and to move up a few more feet. It's so difficult to get to the top. It gives us an idea spiritually, because everything in the physical world has a spiritual source, of what it is to get to the level of a complete tzaddik. So when a person is very close to being a complete tzaddik, he's waging war against the animal soul. Page 151. Everybody have your books open? 151. And he banishes the evil from within his heart, which is like idol worship. That's a strange God within you, in your midst. So in your cities, you have to get rid of idol worship, and in your heart, you have to get rid of the strange God within you. Like it says, Ubiarta ra, you shall totally destroy the evil mikirbacha in your city and in your heart. And the enemy within you should become your ally. He has to join with you. And if he didn't get there yet, that he's not part of your army, he's not one of you, then you're not a complete tzaddik. Person is not a complete tzaddik. This is Shirel. Hi.
Good morning.
Why, Shirel, did I think that you're blonde?
What? She's blonde. I'm blonde.
What?
She's blonde.
Doesn't look blonde now.
It's the lighting. It's the
That's the
lighting.
light on the difference.
It's the lighting.
It's the snow.
Yeah.
I looked at you and
In 2 weeks, she's gonna be blonde.
I thought it
Now
sort of,
she's
it looks like Shirel, but it doesn't look, Shirel's blonde. And I'm looking,
She's,
she's brown, brunette, they call that.
No.
blonde color, whatever, light. Thank you.
It's also the
Then I
truth.
decided to take a chance and call her Shirel anyway. And guess what? She said, good morning. Okay, so if he doesn't get there yet, he's a tzaddik she'ena gamor, and he's not a complete tzaddik. Gamor means the complete. And if he's not a complete tzaddik, that means that there's some evil left within him. What does it say here? It just says, me'at mizer. You know what it means? Me'at mizer. It means a little weensy bit. Not even a reality, just an impression maybe. Where is it? B'chol hashmali, in the left side of the heart. Ela shekafuf u'botol, it's completely subdued. Like a person who's captured in war, he's a prisoner of war. He can no longer fight. He can no longer do anything except what he's told to do. So that means kafuf means he's bent over. You know, like you say in the morning, one of the things we thank Hashem for is that he enables us to stand up. Yes, because before that, we're bent over. It's a blessing to be able to stand up. Just ask anybody who's hospitalized and they can't get out of bed. And finally, they get enough strength back to get out of bed and start to walk around a little bit. They're very grateful. And not only that, it's a complete difference in life to be able to walk upright, to be able to, with your head over your heart, to be able to see the heavens. It's a real bracha. So the Eibusha gives us the blessing that we can stand upright. And if not, we're bent over, kafufim. We're bent over, kafuf. So the Yetzer Hara is kafuf. It's bent over, subdued. It can't walk around and express itself. Ubatel, kafuf, ubatel. Latay. Batel means like totally subservient. It feels like it's nothing. It feels like it's nothing. Like a simple person, let's say you have a person who led not a nice life, a troublemaker. And a righteous person befriends him, and he sees how the righteous person behaves so nicely, and he's so kind to him and to everybody else. And the righteous person takes him with him wherever he goes. He befriends him. and he's nice to him, how does this person, troublemaker, feel beside the righteous person? Doesn't feel like he has any significance. He feels bottle. That's the meaning of the word bottle. Bottle. It's bottle. He's no. See what? How does it translate it here? Bottle is nullified. Nullified. He's of no significance. So he's kafuf, he's bent over, and he's bottle beside in the Yetzer Tov, the godly soul, but he's still there. He's still there. It's like a spider hiding in the palace. Palaces are made of stone, right? And high up near the roof, there's a little ledge. On this ledge, there's a little spider. Does that spider have any significance before the king?
No.
It's the king's palace. Does the spider have any significance? Well, that's what we're talking about here. The Yetzer Hara is bottle, is bent over. It's not going to do anything. It's not even going to weave a web. Nothing. It's just there. So it finds no expression. It does not express it. The Yetzer Hara does not express itself in this person. He's really righteous person. He doesn't think any bad thoughts. He doesn't say any bad things. He doesn't do any bad things. He does good things. He does what he's supposed to do. And he's sustained by this. He's very happy to be on the good team. But he cannot, but the tzaddik is so nullified that the tzaddik doesn't notice that he's there. The tzaddik doesn't know, doesn't care, doesn't know, well, I'm saying doesn't care, but he doesn't pay attention to the fact that this spider is up there in the ceiling somewhere. He's not part of the life of the tzaddik. To the extent, page 152, that the tzaddik can imagine that he doesn't have a Yetzer Hara anymore. Because he doesn't have any, we all have strange thoughts. Strange, that is to say, not weird, but, well, they are weird, but inappropriate. Thoughts that we don't want to have. Thoughts that we're trying not to have. Maybe you saw a movie once and it gave you a thought, a bad thought. I saw a clip from Moshe Rubashkin, not Moshe, Shalom Rubashkin. He's talking about the years that he was in prison and the people that he met and what he learned from them. He said he met one person who was in prison. He had committed some terrible murder. Terrible, terrible murder, killed somebody. And he said to him, "You seem like a nice guy. What did you used to do?" He said, I worked on an ambulance. So when somebody was in danger, Shalom Mordechai said to him, when someone was in danger, you would run to help them and to save their life. How did you come to commit this terrible crime? He says, I don't know. I don't know. I got angry and I just did it. And once I saw a film on television where the person got angry and he killed the other person in this, and I just did what he did. So you see how you can be affected by something, you don't even realize it. He was astonished. Here was a person, his life was devoted to helping other people, and then he committed this crime because he saw it on television, which tells us about the dangers of what we see, how it affects our psyche, how it affects our whole attitude and our way of thinking, our way of feeling. So here, we all have negative thoughts that we pick up, and it's very hard to get rid of them. I remember, years ago, years and years, maybe more than 40 years ago, my wife and I were living in Buffalo, and there was this Jewish family was moving to Florida. They were retired. They were moving to Florida. So they had a sale in the house, and we had just moved. We were looking for furniture, and they were selling their furniture. We thought, well, this is probably good, in good condition, and it was in a kosher home. So we went to see what they had. And I did buy an armchair, nice, comfortable armchair there. And we bought a coffee table. And the husband was sitting in a side room, you might call it a little den, and he was watching television. And I strolled over to that room and spoke with him a bit. Meanwhile, the television program was on, and there was a young man in the television program. There was a young man who was in jail, and his friend, he had a friend who was also in jail. They were white, and the other people in jail were black, and someone killed his friend, and he knew who it was, and so he took revenge. He took revenge, and he in turn killed this black person who had killed his friend. And I happened to see 30 seconds of this television program of when he killed the black man with one foul blow. That was 40 years ago. It's vivid in my mind. I can't get it out of my mind. You have to be so careful what you see. You have to protect your eyes. You have to protect your ears, not to hear things that are inappropriate. You know, when you hear something about somebody, a bit of gossip, scandal, about a person has not such a good reputation, and it may not be true, and you hear it, you can't think the same way about that person ever again. It's always in the back of your mind that they did such and such. So you have to be very, very careful. It says, I think I mentioned this 2 weeks ago. There's a parsha coming up in the summertime called Shoftim, judges. You have to have judges in all your gates. And Hasidus says, what are your gates? Your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your nose, your fingers. These are your gates through which the world comes into your consciousness. And you have to be careful. I know somebody, he's a Rosh Hashiva, a very talented, intelligent person. He's so careful with his eyes, just subconscious. He hardly ever looks at a person. He's always looking into a book, or he's looking down, he's looking around. He doesn't gaze at people, just doesn't gaze. He protects his eye. It's not easy not easy to do that. And he's not weird. He doesn't go around, pretending that he's a big tzaddik. Everything's just natural. Just you never really get a good look at from a heartfelt. Well, I guess he saves that for his intimate family. Those looks. So the point is that we can get negative things into us. We all do, and not necessarily can we get them out, but we try not to let them affect us. So what do you do if you're walking along Eastern Parkway and a bus goes by and there's an advertisement on the side of the bus? Advertisements are usually not very modest, and you see it. It's not your fault. You didn't ask for it. You didn't buy a magazine to look at the pictures. Went by, you saw it. So is that a bad thing? Not really, because if you weren't looking hard, weren't gazing at it, it doesn't go in. But when you say, that looks interesting, and you take a second look, the second look is in. That's in. It's in for good. Okay. Now we're talking about a tzaddik. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have these memories like I just described to you of this from the television program or from somewhere else, or something else he did when he didn't know better, or something that he heard. And he wishes he hadn't heard that. I never have such a thing. I wish you didn't tell me that. Ever happened to you? What'd you have to tell me that for? Why do I have to think badly about this person now? And you try and push the thought away. He uses the expression, Alter Rebbe uses the expression in chapter 12, if a bad thought arises in the mind, of a Beinoni comes from his heart, goes up to his mind, he pushes it away with both hands. How do you push away a thought with both hands? That's a good question. How do you push away a bad thought? The answer is think about something else. And a person might say, well, I can't think about something else. This thought keeps on coming back at me. And I once heard, it was Rabbi Simon Jacobson, who gives all these classes about your character. And he gave a very good example. He says, you can definitely think about something else. Think about a person who's having a romantic thought or a thought about an upcoming simcha. They're planning to get engaged. They're very happy. And they're thinking about if they're going to have an engagement party, where will they have it and who will they invite? And their mind is occupied with all these thoughts. And the teacher says, come on now, pay attention, pay attention. He says, oh, I can't, Rabbi. I'm very excited about what's going on. Well, suddenly you get a beep, beep, heaven forbid, and an emergency call. Father just had a heart attack. They're rushing him to the hospital. You're not thinking about the simcha anymore. Gone. Because you can't think about two things at the same time. And now you're thinking about your father. You want your father to be well. You want him to survive. You want to get to the hospital to be with him, to say till him. You're not thinking about the simcha. You see, you can push away a bad thought. It's proof. Welcome. We're on page 152. Any questions at this point?
Yes. So if there's like
Louder.
if there's like a Baal Teshuva or something.
If it's like a Baal
If
Tshuva,
there's a tzaddik who was a Baal Teshuva,
there's a tzaddik, he was a Baal Tshuva.
yeah, then like wouldn't they have been exposed to things that like were Tomei like before?
Yes, 100%. But because if he does tshuva, his tshuva transforms them. A Baal Tshuva is bigger than a tzaddik. It's higher than a tzaddik. Because when a person does tshuva, the negative things become drivers that inspire him to be much better than a person who never had any negative things in his life. So that a person who's brought up in a kosher home will not have the same passion about eating kosher food as a Baal Tshuva who didn't eat kosher food and then realized how important it was and made a decision in the depths of his heart that he only wants to have kosher food, and he will just run from anything that he thinks is not kosher. And if he still has a hankering for a cheeseburger, then that's a symptom that he didn't do tshuva yet. Or he did tshuva once and then he fell from his level of being a Baal Tshuva and he became a Rasha, because a Rasha has these kind of negative thoughts. A Rasha has negative thoughts. A Beinoni doesn't allow the negative thoughts to exist, but he has them. That's the thing about a Beinoni. A Beinoni does have negative thoughts, but he struggles against them. And a tzaddik passionately runs from them. So that's why the tzaddik is on a level, the Baal Tshuva is on a level that the tzaddik doesn't even know the address. You with me? So he could imagine, since he doesn't have any bad thoughts, because he's in control of his mind, he doesn't let in any bad thoughts. The Beinoni does not have bad thoughts. That's to say, he doesn't entertain them. No, I'm sorry. The Beinoni does have bad thoughts. This is a level of tzaddik who doesn't have bad thoughts anymore. Because he doesn't let them in. Like the story I told you, the chassid who came in the middle of the night to the house of a person who's going to teach him how not to have bad thoughts, and he leaves him standing outside in the rain and the cold. And he says, that was your first lesson. If you don't want to have a bad thought, you don't let it in. As soon as it begins to appear, push it away. Think about something else. So therefore, it's important, girls, to have something else to think about. I used to have a teacher, he wasn't Jewish, and he used to smile and laugh and say, young people nowadays, this was a long time ago, young people nowadays want to think for themselves. They forget that they need to have information to think about. You have to download the data before you can analyze it. So you have to have things in your mind that you can use them to push away the bad thoughts. Something much more important that you want to think about. Like a chapter of Tanya that you've learned by heart. Or a sikha in English that you've learned by heart. Or those thoughts, or something you're writing about the sikha that you learned. Or anything, a poem, a character sketches. If a person is in the middle of writing a poem, for any of you who are writers, you know, when you're thinking of what the words are that you want to use, you're not thinking about something else. You don't want to think about something else, right? So he could think this person is tzaddik, isn't having any bad thoughts. He is not a complete tzaddik. We're going to find out why in a second. But he could think that he is a complete tzaddik because he has no bad thoughts even. He could think that the ra, the evil in his heart has been conquered and it's disappeared. And the proof is that he never has any bad thoughts. And he never does anything bad. He's really leading a very, very exalted level of life. But this is something that's much harder to understand. He didn't convert the bad into good. His Yetzer Hara did not yet become a Yetzer Tov. And he says here, this is only going to be possible through achieving a level of love that one's whole desire in life is just to be connected to Hashem, called the love of delights. And since he didn't get to this level of love, there are other levels of love that we spoke about, strong love and great love and fiery love, but the love of delights he didn't get to. And that's the level at which the tzaddik transforms negative things into positive things. And this guy didn't get there. So he is a tzaddik who is incomplete. He's a tzaddik, but he's not a complete tzaddik. I mentioned yesterday the idea of ivory soap. Very popular soap. The advertisement for it was 99 44 100% pure, and it floats in the bathtub. So this person is 99 44 100%. You know what is 44 out of 100 of the last percent. He's 99% pure and almost half of the last percent. 44 out of 100% of the last percent is pure. It's that last 56 over 100% that's not pure. Okay, that's the tzaddik he's an incomplete tzaddik. The evil has not been converted into good. If it was the complete tzaddik, the tzaddik gomor, which we had the merit to see, is the Rebbe. And this is a book written by such a complete tzaddik, a new neshama, was never ever in the world before. So, how does he become a complete tzaddik? On page 153, the third set of Hebrew words. How do you get to be a complete tzaddik? By completely removing all your filthy garments. In other words, when a person does something wrong in action, heaven forbid, you scream at somebody, you take something that doesn't belong to you, but you wanted it. One boy in school takes his friend's nosh. Well, you do something wrong. So that's wrong. Since it's wrong, and action is one of the garments through which your soul expresses itself. How you have a soul, everybody has a soul. Lesson number one, girls, you're going to have friends who are going to say, what happened to you? How did you become so religious?
Yeah.
What happened? What changed you? And you have to answer, you won't know what to tell them. To really get to the point, you're going to tell them some experience you have, but they didn't have that experience. You have to tell them this. Now listen carefully. You have to tell them when you're really ready to listen, you really want to know, there's something you don't know that I also didn't know. So your friend is going to say, what's that? You have to know that you have a neshama. And you're all aware of the fact that up to a certain point in your life, you never knew you had a neshama. Never thought about it. I remember when I was 11 years old, or 10 years old, or 9 years old, I had a cousin that I looked up to him a lot. He was a very good athlete. That was a criteria of merit in those when I was young. And one day he said to me, he was a year older than me, my cousin. He said to me, you know, I found out that I think. I said, you do? I didn't know that I thought. I was totally unconscious of thinking. I never thought about thinking. I mean, there's a famous French philosopher. That was the central point of his whole philosophy. I think, therefore I am. The definition of his existence was that he thinks. He's not an animal. Animals don't think. On a lighter note, like Rabbi Gordon says, on a lighter note, there were two skunks, In and Out. That were their names. They had nicknames, In and Out. And one day, In wandered off and didn't come back. And they couldn't find him. And skunks have natural camouflage, dark and white hair. Nobody could find him in the forest. So Out said, that's okay, I know, I can find him. And he wandered off into the forest, and a few minutes later he came back and he said, how'd you do it so quickly? He says, instinct. Have a good day, girls.
Thank you. But my friends want one.
So what's the point? That you see, before that point, animals don't think. They do everything by instinct. Even intelligent animals like rats or wolves or foxes that are famous for being very cunning and have intelligence. No, they have the intelligence of their species. They don't have the intelligence to distinguish between right and wrong. Even a dog, which has qualities of loyalty, that's also instinct. This is how they're programmed by the one above. But there was a stage in life before you were aware of thinking, before you were aware of having a soul. So this is what you have to tell your friends when they ask you, what happened to you? Why did you change? Why did you become religious? Just because I learned something very important that I have in the neshama. And I said, what is in the neshama? Just like my cousin never knew that he thought, became aware of thinking. So it's a big leap to think that you have a soul. And most people here in America don't know this. And I gotta tell you something else. In England and France and Brazil and Argentina, they also don't know about this.
But they will say, like, I've been living with my neshama, not being religious. Like, why will you turn into religious?
What?
Like, for example, my friends that they are Jewish but not religious. I know they will answer me like,
yeah, I have the soul, but I didn't become religious. Like, why?
So I say, what is your soul? What is, you have a soul? Good. What does your soul do? What is it? That you're alive? So animals are also alive. They also have a soul. Animal has an animal soul. It's alive. Everything has a soul. Indians, American Indians know that trees have a soul. Stones have a soul. Everything has a soul. Soul's not just, you have a Jewish soul. That's a neshama. Oh, that's why you became religious? Yeah. Because my Jewish neshama wanted to express itself. How does the neshama express itself? Neshama expresses itself because it wants to be connected to its source. And the source is God. How do you do that? Once you know that that's what your neshama is, then you start wondering, how do I connect my neshama to its source? And what is its source? How am I going to find it? Come with me Friday night to Chabad, we'll light a Shabbos candle, and then you'll know. Right or wrong?
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Rabbi.